So, hello and welcome to our today's conversation. And today I'm going to talk about what we call the gift and the burden of parenting. And I want to tell you outright that it's a gift for you to be a parent. But if you don't see it as a gift, then perhaps your parenting has not been what it should be. But that should not worry you. That is why we are here, to have these conversations. That is why we look at parenting, redefine it for you, and help you look at parenting from a different perspective, so that we understand that it is a gift, rather than looking at parenting from one angle of responsibility. And yes, parenting has a lot of responsibility, but we'll also be looking at these responsibilities and check whether we are actually doing our responsibilities as parent the way it's supposed to be done, or are we doing it just because we are listening to opinions, we are listening to what people are shouting, or we are listening to the noise that is around us. So welcome to this conversation, and let us tackle it. I actually have some of the questions that we'll be looking at, so that we really try to dissect what this responsibility that we have as parents, and how it's a gift to us and not something that we should be afraid of, and something that we should be actually looking at it as a problem to ourselves. And I know what might be going through your mind, that parenting is a lot of work. Parenting takes too much energy from a person, and it requires a lot of resources for you to be a good parent. And I can tell you this for free, that many parents might as well be thinking like you are thinking today. Because I've been in that space of being a psychologist, I've actually encountered sessions between parents and children, and a lot of aspects of those surrounded mostly responsibility of parenting. And along the way, children were affected to the point that things fell out of control, and the parent had to seek for a session or a therapy for their children and for themselves. And so today we are going to look at that. I'll just give you this scenario for a moment. There is this father who actually requested for a session with the child. She was a daughter, and this daughter actually had complaints to the parent. And one of the major problem, or the major complaint that this child was having, is that actually the child doesn't understand the father's responsibility in her life. But wait a little. When I listened to this father, there was one thing that this father was stressing. I've given this child everything. I've taken this child to the best schools, where I pay a lot of school fees for her to be in school. I've given this child everything she wants. Every type of clothes that she wants, every type of clothes that she feels like she wants to, every design. This child doesn't stay hungry. This child have everything she feels like she wants to eat. So the parent provides food to the fullest. This child lives in one of the best homes. This father has made sure that he provides that to the child. So technically, this father was saying that he has provided everything that the child needs, from food, school, shelter, and all that. But still, this child was complaining that she really doesn't understand the responsibility of the father in her life. And why is this complaint coming about? is because this father wanted the child to behave in a certain manner. And so, because the child is grown, she's gone to university, she feels like she has that freedom to do what she can do or what she likes. But then it is not in line with the values of this man. So this man wants to instill in this child what he thinks is right for the child. That is where the conflict comes from. Dad, I do not understand what is your responsibility in my life. And so stop doing this to me. So the father decides to bring the child to a session to understand what is going on or what is happening between the father and the child. You can relate to that story. What is really happening is that this father took parenting as provision. So there was this misunderstanding between being a parent and providing for a child. And so he ended up making sure that he provides to the child. And because there was misunderstanding of what provision and parenting is, the father ended up giving every material thing that was available that he could actually give to the child to make sure that he sustains this child's life. But we know that at the end of it all, it was not enough for this child. So what are some of the things that we actually miss out as parents to get to that situation of this father and the daughter having misunderstanding and having to come to a session when the father felt that he did everything he could do for the child? So there are some of the questions that we are actually going to look at and try to understand actually what makes these scenarios happen, or what really is parenting if what we are doing is not enough for our children. And I can actually have such thing like what really changes when a child is born on the perspective of a parent. You as a parent, what changes in you when a child is born? The truth is, you've always misunderstood it. You've looked at it as you having a young child born into your hands, and now you're supposed to be the person that is providing for this child to make sure that this child grows up. But the thing that we do not put in perspective is the moment this child is born, a parent is born. And everything that is born has to grow. So as the child grows, we also expect the parent to grow. But then a parent's growth is normally invisible. It is not seen. What we see is the child growing up. And in most cases, whatever that we see from our child is the physical growth that the child undergoes. But we forget the mental and emotional growth that this child is undergoing. So let us understand that always when a child is born, a parent is born. The same case applies to you. When your child was born, you were born as a parent. And the next expectation from you is that you also keep growing as a parent. And remember, you do not have one child. A child was born, you became a parent. You had another child, you are a parent. You cannot stay stagnant as a person and expect to raise these children to become good and respectful people. or adults in future. So there is that aspect that a parent is born and expect you to grow as a parent. Another thing is, why have you often actually misunderstood what responsibility for a parent means to you? And this is why, in most cases, often all the parents misunderstands responsibility for a parent for provision. We think that our responsibilities as parent is to provide for our children. And that provision is making sure that our children have food, making sure that our children have a shelter, making sure that our children goes to school, and all those things that sustain life. But in real sense, that is only part of our responsibility as parents. So responsibility for a parent is not equal to provision. Responsibility for a parent is not equal to provision. Provision is only a percentage of the responsibility that you have as a parent to your child. And I normally like to put this into two dimensions. There is one thing that we call expectation, and then there is another thing that I call example. These two things adds up to what our responsibilities are as parents. The part of expectation is where you as a parent is expected to provide for this child. And what are you providing? Making sure that this child is eating. You're providing food. You're making sure that this child goes to school. You make sure that this child has shelter to live in. So we expect you to provide that as parent. But that is not the whole package of responsibility of parenting. The other aspect that I'm talking about is example. So apart from expectation that we have for you as a parent to a child, we have an example that you are supposed to be to your child. What you are, what you do, how you behave, how you act, how you solve your problems, all of them are supposed to be examples set by you for your children to be able to see how you do them, learn how you do them, so that they embody that. And so when you look at them in those dimensions, you will understand that this aspect of expectation, what we expect you to give to your child, it's only the provisions that sustains your child's life. You give them food to eat so that they stay alive. You give them shelter to stay in. You make sure that you are paying for their school fees. They go to school and they enjoy all those things. You are sustaining their life. But then this other part of example is the other aspect of parenting that now help this child to learn how to live the life that you're sustaining. So I've provided everything that sustains your life as a human being. But then how am I teaching you to live this life that you're struggling to sustain? That is where the aspect of example comes in. So we walk with our children through their life so that they also can understand how to live their life. If we revisit the story about the father and the child, the father wants to give directions to this child, a grown-up child in a university, on how to live, because he feels that what that child is doing is not in line with his values. But then that child never learned that. Growing up, the father was busy providing. he was never present to give that other part of example, because it is that example that shapes the character and the values of how your child becomes. And so if you have been present in the life of this child, given that example, allow that child to look at you, observe what you do, and learn from it. They will automatically acquire the values from you. They learn the character from you. They'll embody what is right from you. So even after they grow up, they live as a reflection of how you taught them how to live. But where we find that disconnect is, we've provided everything to sustain the life of the children, but we've forgotten how to teach these children how they have to live that life. That is where the disconnect comes from. And looking at it from those two angles, and then reflecting on what we're actually doing currently as parents, we find that we're actually focusing on one side. We're focusing on the side of provision. Every time we wake up, we think about work. When we come back, we think about their school fees. We think about what they are going to eat. We think about how we are going to build a very good house so that our children can live in. We are thinking on the aspect of provision. But then we forget that there is one very fundamental aspect of parenting that we should not forget: being an example. Being an example to our children is what will create those values and their character. That aspect of example to our children only happens when we are present in their life. So when we give them all the other aspect of things, all the other aspect of provisions, let us also not forget to provide ourselves to them. Be present in their life, so that as they grow up, they look up to you as a parent. They observe what you do. They learn what you do. They acquire their values, and then they acquire their character, so that we don't have that disconnect at the end of the day. But then another question comes in. What are your values? What is your character as a parent? Remember when we started this conversation, we talked about a child being born automatically means a parent has been born. And as a child grows up, we also expect a parent to keep growing. So the value that you want your children to acquire does not grow from a stagnant parent, or does not come from a stagnant parent. They come from a parent who keeps growing as a parent. And that means working on yourself as a parent as well. So developing yourself every day, learning every day, and then making sure that what you learn, what you develop, are values and the character that you will like your children to acquire. Because we've always said that we do not teach them by word of mouth. They observe and then they learn. and then they embody what we do. And so it also works well when the parent, him or herself, has developed themselves to better people, so that that example aspect of parenting responsibility is given fully by a parent who is conscious and aware of what they want their children to learn from them. And so remember always that you as a parent will only determine how your child lives their life if we also focus on the aspect of example and not only provision of basic needs that sustains the life, but example aspect that teaches this child how to live that life. And how is it a gift? It is a beautiful way of life, knowing that your life is actually shaping another life through example. Your character is being embodied by another life, and we expect that we actually appreciate our position as parent and keep on developing our children to be better people. And so don't forget to work on yourself as a parent.